Okay, if I turn to MAR, not the engine on, just power on, this is the radio. Turns on pretty quickly. This is actually the radio, funnily enough. You can see the main frequency here rather than the station name for some reason. That's kind of smaller, which is a bit unusual in my opinion. You use this to change the tuning. It jumps to stations it's found, or you can use the capacitive touchscreen. That's right, capacitive, you don't have to stab it like my other one. Let me just put it back to Radio 2, which is one of the favourites. Yeah. The amplifier, sorry, is quite, it goes quite loud. Now, to be fair, I've only got the standard speakers in here, but that's at 3.
Sadly, his sister actually died of a heart attack in one of the ballrooms at the end. But anyway.
I better not blow anything. So let's put that back to 2. In fact, no, I'll put it to 1. Let's go through the features then. Before we get to GPS, right, you've got disc, so obviously you just stick a CD in there. Even a DVD, in fact. I haven't tested the DVD, so I don't know what regions this plays. It will no doubt play region 2 because it's aimed at the UK, and if you look at one of the stickers on the top, it says GB. As you can see, I haven't fully installed this. This is just for demonstration purposes. So, auxiliary, self-explanatory. I don't have anything plugged into the auxiliary right now, so it's not going to do anything. Bluetooth has a number of features. So, one of the features is phone. The microphone for the phone is up here. And obviously the speakers are, well, your car speakers. Now it does do the phone book, but I haven't Bluetoothed my phone because I'm recording with it right now. You can also do Bluetooth music, which is useful if you have passengers who just want to listen to their own music. You can Bluetooth in, or even your own music. But if you have your own music, I prefer to use the SD card because it doesn't drain your phone's battery life. We'll get onto that later. Radio, we've already really been on radio, so iPod is also self-explanatory. There's a cable at the back which you plug in an adapter and then you could route it down like I've done with the GPS. There's a hole at the back of the Panda enclosure, and it comes, what I find, down up here. I can't really show you it as such, it's kind of out of the way. But what I do with my GPS antenna is it's there. The wire goes along a crevice down there, and then along here, and you can actually see it slightly there, down wedged between, in fact I'll show you the equivalent on the driver door, sort of wedged in between here, and then it goes under there, and it's quite makeshift. It's sellotape to the bottom on the underside here, and then just goes up and into the back of the radio. You can do much the same with the iPod. So I'd imagine if I were to ever use the iPod function, the cable would go down there, and then maybe I could sort of fashion a sort of the USB to sort of just come up there, and I could plug it in at my leisure. Anyway, let's go to the next bit. SD. Now, one of the prime reasons I like about these radios is that they have SD. Now, this one's got a micro SD card, which I'll be including, obviously. That's it, just playing my one MP3 for testing purposes. Getting a bit of my romantic side there. Let's just stop that. Equalizer, I'll go into the settings, and USB is largely the same as the iPod. Has a USB slot at the back. Obviously you could put an extender on that so it comes out wherever you want it to come out. Settings. Settings do divulge into the functionality of the device. Firstly, time display, self-explanatory. If I swipe that or tap it, time goes away. So you can only use the time on the dashboard here. Brake. Now, in my old navigation unit, what you had to do is if you wanted to watch a DVD whilst you were driving, not that I was doing it, my passengers were, I swear, you have to splice open the earth wire and then put it onto, sorry, not the earth wire, the parking wire, and then put it onto the earth so that it thinks that the handbrake's on even though you're driving, even though it senses the GPS. On this one you don't, it's just a switch. So when this is switched on, it won't let you watch DVDs whilst the car is moving. Radio air is purely for which frequencies it tunes into. Oh, there's more, sorry. Let's go back to system. You go down, system reset, self-explanatory again. You can also press this button here with a paper clip, hold it down and it'll reset everything. If you don't ever want to use Bluetooth, you just swipe that and the Bluetooth option from the menu goes away. That's all it is. Audio options, let me go back up. Now you've got a fairly basic graphic equalizer here. That's my custom settings that I've found that are quite good on the Panda. If you have a subwoofer, you've also got bass. If you don't have a subwoofer, whatever you set this to doesn't make any difference at all. You would think it might even do the sort of funny enough bass, but it doesn't. The low caters to that entirely. Navigation, Bluetooth, DVD, iPod, auxiliary, radio, those are all to do with just the individual channels of audio and how loud they are. You can press that, it just makes it louder. That's all it does. Not even sort of dynamically louder, it just makes it louder if need be. I've unticked that because I've got the basic speakers, and even if I set it to maybe 5 out of 20, it's pretty loud. That's balance. Video menu, you'd probably get what you're expecting in here. Brightness, colour, contrast, and you got a few presets. Navigation, now this device uses iGo software, iGo 8, in the form of an executable. That's stored on the actual card. If you plug that into a computer and try and launch that executable, it hasn't worked for me, but you can fiddle about with the software on the card if you want to customize it. I've not tried it myself. There's certainly forums on the internet that would help you by doing that. It tells you about the system that's running. Again, I've not divulged much into what that is, but that's what it explains. GPS monitor is probably the most interesting page of them all. It tells you what information it's seeing and where you are. Fascinating. Time as well. You probably never need to visit this because you've got that feature there which just syncs it with the GPS signal. I did have to change it to GMT because when it came it was Chinese, obviously. When I swipe that, language, if you're buying this and you're not if you're not in the UK and your main language is something else, got that about. Now, my car doesn't have steering controls. If you have a Panda that does have the steering controls, this is where you would sort of configure them to make sure that they're up and running correctly. Just press a button, I believe, and then one of those flashes, or obviously I haven't tested it. Touch, now this is interesting, you click that and simply you press it where it is, so you calibrate a touch screen. Okay. Logo, now when you turn the car on it shows a Fiat logo, it shows the new red one, whereas I'm still got the old blue one. I believe this is where you could choose any logo you want. Now the logo, if you want to put your own logo in here, would be stored on the SD card. I think it might be on the GPS one. It's on one of them. Whichever one has the folder logo, which funny enough would probably be the GPS one actually. There's quite a few things on here I haven't tested, to be fair, but everything is working as well, I'll show you anyway. Background is much the same, apart from it's the actual background. As you see, it's all black in the back with these two banners, but if I change it to, let's say, that's the lightest one you could probably see from this video, like that, and you can't really tell from there. Put it back to that. Right, so the only thing I haven't showed you is, funnily enough, probably one of the main features, the GPS. So you can either press GPS or the nav button, and it quickly changes to that. What you'll also notice is if I turn it off, that turns off. You can't turn it on while the key's out and the ignition is not on, which is unfortunate if you're used to that kind of thing, but that's how quickly it turns on. I have noticed if you leave your car overnight and then come back to it, that sort of affects how quickly it turns on. So it's a bit like how quickly the engine heats up. If your car's been on recently, then that will start up like that. But if you haven't used it in a while, it'll take a little longer. The longest that I've had it take would maybe be 20 seconds, to be fair. That's not that bad. Now this is the map screen. This is a default colour scheme, which I actually quite like because it's got nice greens. It looks as if you're actually amongst the countryside. which I'm not particularly, I'm in a sort of fairly rural village anyway. My only criticism of it is, whilst it's really detailed, and if you go into city centres, especially where I live, you've actually got building models that pop up. The only criticism I have of it is that the arrow sometimes looks a bit big, but it's very proportional. If you're coming up to a junction, the camera actually will zoom in, sort of, it'll tilt up and sort of zoom in, so it is a sort of proper 3D. And it's fairly fluent. I've not come across one that is completely fluent. You can actually adjust the detail settings on this so it can be more fluent. But when you're on a long stretch of road, let's say you're going along and your next instruction is not until way later, the arrow will not be huge, it'll be very proportional, so the camera will zoom out, you'll see the road ahead, but when you're coming up to stuff it'll sort of tilt, and it kind of makes the arrow look a bit big. That's my only criticism of this. I don't know if you can change the arrow to like a car or anything. I'd imagine if you fiddled about with the GPS in there, with the skins and stuff, you probably could. Not tried it myself, as I've said. So the main interface is, like, you can either touch that to go straight to like find an address, or menu, which is animated, did I mention? Find, and not sure what it's done there. Let's go back. Find, and then, well, you're smart. If you're smart enough to install a radio, you're smart enough to know what all these features do, to be fair. It's got quite a number of POIs. Find address, usual. Let's go back, actually. Settings is always interesting. So, as I say, if you go into map screen and then color profiles, I have it on automatic so that when you turn the lights on, even the side lights, it dims. Lights off, lights on. You also notice, although you can't see it well in here, that goes the same orange colour as the rest of the dash does. Turn it off. You can only just about see that. Now, for both, while the lights are on and the lights are off, you get different skins. So you get skins that are suited to being lights off, sort of daylight skins. Now I've just chosen ones that I particularly like. Go back. It's got elevation, which is pretty cool. Both on 3D and 2D. This means that, like, when you're on the motorway and there's a bridge over the motorway, for example, it'll look as if the road is actually going over your road. It avoids confusion, which you get on some other ones, which it just looks like a crossroads. Lane information at the top, which actually looks like the sort of overhead motorway signs you get. Well, let's go back to the map, that'll sort of show you. I'll put pictures of that, but what happens is you get the motorway sort of symbols up at the top, corresponding to whatever side's on. In TomTom ones, you actually get a big arrow in the sort of screen. You don't get this in that, but you do get arrows in the signs themselves. This, if you tap it, shows you some statistics. It's also got a trip computer, which is kind of interesting, because that tells you your average speed, maximum speeds, and how long you've been moving, how long have you not been moving. So I've been here for half an hour now. Again, you can just scroll through that. Oh, there actually are no different datases. That's kind of weird. Go back. And this, you can tell that this software also has like modular, standalone navigation in mind as well. Because the blue bit represents your battery power, but obviously since this is actually powered by the car, that's always going to be full. That's your reception to satellite as well, and the car represents that you're in a car. You can actually change the software to make it think that you're in a truck and stuff, so it restricts you to certain roads. If I tap that, as I said, you can change that. You can even change to pedestrian for whatever reason. As I say, this software is designed for multiple applications, so obviously since this is a Panda, it'll be a car. Some people would argue it could be a bicycle the size of this vehicle. That switches on the buildings. I've just switched it off, funnily enough, but I'll just pop it back on. Switches on sound, volume. If you want to manually change it to night time, I've got a sort of red thing going there. Change it back. As if you manually want to do it. If you turn the light on, then it'll dim it. But I've actually set it so that when the light is on, it still uses the same skin, because I actually like that skin quite a lot. So let me turn that back on. You notice these buttons at the side. Menu's menu, obviously. Position takes you, like, if you scroll out, la-di-da-di-da, I believe position takes you back to where you were. I know it actually shows you, well, it does take you back to where you were, but it shows you, do you want to save this as whatever. What does take you back to where you were, let me just do that again, is this button here, which appears. Tap that, takes you back. Detour, if I was on a trip and there was a blockage, for example, press detour, and depending on how long the blockage is, you could get around it. And finally, 2D changes the mode of display. Now this is north facing always, so if I were to turn down there, the map would turn rather than the cursor. If I tap that again, the map is always the right way up and your cursor would turn, but the map wouldn't. Most people like 3D because it looks funky. What you'll find is when you're going around roundabouts, I've noticed that a sort of do not turn left picture appears there, just so that you don't turn off the roundabout into an incoming slip road, which I don't frequently suffer from. Tap that. Again, menu. Although it jumps right to the find menu. Let's go back into settings again, just for a few more things. Now, there's 2 pages on settings. You can, it's got a TMC. Now it says no TMC found. What I suspect you'll need to do is you click start, and then when it finds a TMC signal, that'll appear up there. When I did procure this, it did come with a TMC. If I were to take that out, there's a label that says TMC and it's ticked. Now, my experience with TMC is it does take a while to pick up TMC, so I'm not going to sit here and wait for that. Forget that. Oh, had to think about it there. Device. Again, power management, you can tell it's also designed for mobile stuff, so smart power save, battery always on. About. That's what's running. Navigo iGo 8. May 11th, 2010. That must be the software date, because the maps themselves are more up to date than that. Because there's a new motorway which wasn't on there, but it is on the map at that period of time. In fact, let's take map. Yeah, there you go. This shows you all the versions of maps on the system, so Albania and Andorra, all these European countries. Let's go down to the UK. 2011. That's not bad. If you want to get map updates for this, I believe there's forums on the internet that provide you with links. Obviously I don't condone illegally procuring maps, but I'm not particularly familiar how to get maps for this, because it is a no-name brand. Although actually, I think the brand of this is HLA, Hotel Lima Alpha. If you want, I can find out from the guy who's, well, not the guy, the company that sold me this is the guy I spoke to about installing it, to find out how you would go procuring maps. But as I said, I've noticed forums on the websites, forum on the internet, that you can download maps and you simply just copy into the appropriate folders. Let's go back here. Credits, blah 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 blah. Oh, sorry, no. Right, map screen we've already been to. Shows you various stuff there. Sound, master volume, gain volume. Now, where do you change the voice thing again? Because you can change. I know you can change the voices on this. Well, whilst we're looking for that, you can also see the other settings you get. Navigation have already been in there, silly. Route planning, and again, vehicle, car, road types used for route planning. So you can actually go in here, and if you don't want to be navigated onto unpaved roads and unlikely events that is the best route, you can untick that. Warnings. This is an interesting feature. On my other sat nav, when you're actually on the map screen, the speed limit appears in the circle there, like an actual speed limit sign. On this, it doesn't until you're speeding. So I could be driving along at 50 on a 70 road, and no speed limit will appear there, but it'll only show up when you're speeding, I've noticed. When you are speeding, you can put in allowances for by how much before it warns you. You can have it warn you audibly and visibly. Warn if too fast for a pedestrian. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I'm guessing that if you're on a sort of paved road, or if you are using this software on a pedestrian navigation device. But why would you be? Anyway, that's what it does. Say speed camera warning. It does warn you when if you reset this and then start from default set, it does warn you that could be illegal in some countries. It's not in the UK, obviously. Audible warning while approaching a speed camera. Visible warning I've chosen off for the moment. Safety mode. I've unticked that. When you tick it, in safety mode you cannot operate touchscreen while the car is in motion. Are you sure? No. I would like to operate while I'm driving. If I need to detour. No, please. Right, go back. I think it's in regional. Yeah, here's where you can change the voice. So, program language is English, so what you actually read is English. Voice profiles, English, Elizabeth version 1. There are quite a number, so turn the volume up.
Have a nice trip, drive carefully. Have a nice trip, drive carefully.
She sounds a bit older and more refined.
Have a nice trip, drive carefully.
Okay, you sound refined as well.
Have a nice trip, drive carefully.
In 50 meters, turn left.
I wonder where the...
Have a nice trip, drive carefully.
Carefully.
Buen viaje. Conduzca con cuidado.
So, for the benefit of those who are considering buying this from other countries, Spain,
Que tenga buen viaje, maneje con cuidado.
Bon voyage, conduisez prudemment.
Za 50 metara skrenite lijevo.
Ciao, sono Daniela. Sei pronta a viaggiare con me?
Tra 50 metri gira a sinistra.
you can actually hear the sort of echo in the Italian ones. Quite a bunch of Italian ones, actually.
Mijn 50 meter, fordulj jobbra.
祝您行车愉快。
Chinese.
Goede reis, rijd voorzichtig.
I'll just go through the other ones visually. Quite a number of them.
בעוד 50 מטרים לשמאלה.
请小心驾驶，旅途愉快。
I
用衛星導航。
Just put that to default.
Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
Okay. Units. Miles and yards is what most people use in the UK, but you can change it to kilometres, metres, miles and feet. I prefer miles and yards. Format and time zone settings. So these are all the regional settings, and I believe that's pretty much all the settings. One final thing is track logs. I believe that you can actually track where you're going. So if I go back to the map, I think it was this you press. No, it's that one, and then you press that. Nope, I didn't need to do that. Right, so you'll notice a red dot here, so it's recording where I'm going. Stop. And had I driven, go into the menu, settings, track logs, that would control how it's tracked. Where it's saved to will be in manage, track logs. Since it didn't move anywhere, it didn't really save anything. You can add your own point of interest, so they would appear in here. So if had I added an airport, domestic, it would appear there. History, stuff. And that is pretty much it. Any time I can press navigate, go back to the main system, and obviously whatever you play here will continue playing when you go into Navi. Now, in case you're driving along and you don't want to listen to anything, I suppose you can either turn it off, but that changes the screen, or just stop it, to be fair. Nope. I believe that also triggers the function. There you go. That pauses that actually. And yes, it does do random. It'd be pretty bad if it didn't do random. GPS. Okay. One final thing, I suppose. Let me just turn off the car engine. If I take this out, I did mention that there was a sticker up here. So as you can see, HL, I think it's a company, it's like HL-8722GB. That's the specific Panda model, because it's the same sort of thing, but the front fits into the sort of design. There was a screw in there that would have prevented the CD from being put in, which I've taken out. These are the back cables, so there's a USB. That, I'm not entirely sure what that's for. It has a Chinese label on it. If you have a subwoofer and you recognise that, then perhaps that's what it is. That you connect to an iPod adapter, it comes with that. Plug it in there, and the other end is a 30-pin connector. That is the radio. If I unplug that, it comes with this sort of pin system because it uses that. I'll take that off my connector once I've finished filming this. And the main connector is looks proprietary to me, but I don't know the many connectors in the radio industry, I suppose. There's lots of cables there, and you can see that I've not used some of them because one of these, I think it's actually the pink one, goes to the parking brake. Don't quote me on that. Might not be the pink one. Might be one of the others. But you can tell which one's which if you look on the underside. So what you see here is there are a number of pins on the main connector. If you disconnect that, and you can count them. So the one at the top left is 1, and then you go along 2, 3, 4 up to 10, and you just correspond it to the guide here. So what I've done is the basic functions of the main ISO, which is the speakers, the power, and all that, and they all connect into, I've forgotten the name of these, but you just match up the colours to whichever wire you need to use, and that's it. Obviously I'll include that because I'm not going to need it after this. If you need any more of these wires, or if for whatever reason you need to rearrange that, it's just a simple case of unscrewing that and then screwing it into the other one. Oh yeah, the GPS, simple screw sort of thing, also goes down the back, as I said. You can't see it from here, and then along and up, and that is that. So if you're interested, put in your bid, or even buy it outright if you're that keen. Heck, if you're close by, I'll deliver it to you personally. Otherwise, Royal Mail tracked. I'm offering this to Europe as well because it does have European maps. And that is that. Just take out the SD card. I'll include this SD card, yeah.